Good morning, this is Jimmy Skogard with Grassroots Rising.
And I am still here in Cody, Wyoming, visiting with
Luke Zeller.
Luke Zeller. Nice to see you here, Luke. Luke is from Grable or Mason?
Grable.
Okay, Grable. Grable, you know, I went to school with Todd. Is that your father?
Yep.
Okay, so Todd Zeller, the father. Todd was a state champion wrestler, right? 2X state
runner-up.
Oh, runner-up. Okay, so Todd and I wrestled in AAU USA together under a coach who's been very influential in my life, Tom Harrington. Tom Harrington has kind of started a bit of a
concerned citizens group, maybe you could call it, but we're working on a name. The next week we'll have a name.
I'd call it the Harrington against the BS, against control or something like that. Citizens against fed up with
all of it,
with the nonsense organization right here in the Bighorn Basin. And so, Luke, tell me, what's the number one concern on your mind? I've been asking folks their number one concern. Is it the economy, fuel prices, or is it just the rhetoric and the nonsense that you're hearing in politics today, or anything else? I don't want.
It's tough. It's tough to pick one, isn't it?
It's
tough to pick one.
All right, let's pick.
The one. Well, here's the thing: is the one that does come up for me in my generation. There's a report, I think, by the Guardian or somebody, something like 30-some% of people aged 16 to 29 suffer from climate anxiety. It was the hottest winter on record in Wyoming this year, and that one's tough for me. When Florida's underwater, I don't want all those guys coming here. I want to keep it a little bit how it is,
Wyoming, right?
So climate for me, that's not really what maybe people really want to talk about, but certainly not.
That's something that you would.
That's for me. That's number one. Number two, let's go. Come on, healthcare. And your stuff for healthcare is really good.
Healthcare. All right. Yeah, I suggest that health insurance has failed. It's failed Wyoming. Just utterly failed Wyoming. And why do I say that? When's the last time you looked at your healthcare bill?
I think I just got dropped because their website was not functioning a while back, a couple months ago when I got through the ACA. And
Luke, you got dropped. You got your.
Apparently, I didn't pay any bills. I'm very bad at managing.
Yeah, and so the idea that we could all pay our healthcare premiums directly to the state of Wyoming into one bucket, and then have our doctors and hospitals and ambulance drivers and nurse practitioners, everybody just sends the bill right directly to the state.
I'm with it.
And why wouldn't that work? Why wouldn't that work?
I don't know why it wouldn't work. I think it does work. I've lived in Belgium. I've lived in Israel
they
for
have
a while.
Social medicine. That's
socialized medicine.
That's the problem. That's why it doesn't work. Is because we put the word social medicine on it.
Right.
Well, I don't think it's social medicine.
No, I went and I showed up and I saw a doctor and I basically didn't have to pay anything.
And so I talked to a couple of doctors in Wyoming and they asked me, well, who sets the prices then? I'm saying, well, why wouldn't the doctors set the prices? Why wouldn't we just call a convention of doctors and healthcare specialists to go to Cheyenne once every so often, maybe every 2 or 3 years, and set their prices for what they need to conduct their practice? And then we look at that bucket of money at the end of the day, and we say, oh, we got a bunch of money left over because we no longer have to pay for things like insurance on like
bunch of middlemen.
Well, let's just face it. If our doctors in Wyoming, if we could relieve them of the burden of malpractice insurance and say, now that's just a function of the state, because that's what we do with workers' comp, right? If there's a catastrophic injury on the job, your employer is required to participate in workers' comp. And so a certain portion of the payroll goes to workers' comp, and if there's that injury happens, then the state workers' comp division takes responsibility for that catastrophic loss. It relieves the employers of that burden. Why can't we do the same thing for our doctors and relieve them of the burden of malpractice insurance? Let them set their own wages, because they're the ones that are going to know whether or not what they need to survive in Wyoming. And then let them focus on health care and not pill pushing, and incentivize reward programs or something that say, hey, if you have a population of patients and they do your population outperforms, everybody else in the state, then you're going to get a monetary and some type of reward, and you're going to come and talk to the rest of the doctors in the state of Wyoming. Tell us how you do it. Tell us how you provide health care instead of us trying to shuffle this failed concept of health insurance.
No, as long as health is something that the bottom line is the most important aspect, it's going to be then our welfare is always going to come second.
Right now, Luke, do you go to the doctor for a wellness checkup?
Hell no.
No. Why don't you go for a wellness checkup?
Oh, it's super expensive. I ain't got no insurance.
Suppose you belong to a group of people that just went to a certain doctor, and the doctor reached out to you and said, "Luke, it's time for you to come in for a wellness check." But he got to send the bill to the state. Would you go?
Yeah, of course.
Of course. And say he actually found a problem that he could solve right now for a very low cost. He recommended that maybe you go in and have a mole or something on your skin.
Right.
So he finds one. He says, this doesn't look right. He has it tested. Finds out it's a melanoma that you're unwilling to go look at right now because you can't afford it. And yet he's able to see that and prevent, a carcinoma or whatever they call them from developing. I'm not a doctor, so
I am not either, brother.
Anyway, I'm like, this is a conversation that we need to have. This isn't something that has to happen, but it's a conversation we need to have because health insurance has failed in Wyoming, utterly and totally failed. If you can't
and across the country, I mean, people, if you have any kind of medical emergency, you're one emergency away from being indebted, and then that debt being passed on to your kids and family. I mean, it's crazy.
Or the hospital's not being paid, or being paid at a reduced rate, or being stuck with a bill, and that's not right. We could go on about healthcare. You want to go on about healthcare? I got a couple more.
Brother, I'm not a specialist on the healthcare. I just know that I'm in the other countries that I have lived in. It is not something that I've had to worry about. And that the taxes while I was working in those countries allowed me to just go to the doctor if I needed to go to the doctor, and I didn't have to worry about it. And I expect that they have their problems, but probably not problems that a little bit of conversation and concerted effort wouldn't be able to help address.
Once we start the conversation, we can find the solution, because the solution lives out there between us. It's not. You don't come up with these solutions all alone in a box and say, "Oh, this is good for everyone." Some folks might not like my ideas. Well, they need to be heard.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't come up with a bucket at the state level that works, but maybe we come up somewhere in between, something that works for everybody. That's what I want. I want something that works for everybody, and then we can move on. We can move on from this conversation and start taking care of something else. That's what government is supposed to. Government is supposed to be boring. It's supposed to.
It is. It always was for me.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden,
I'm trying to play catch up, because it turns out while I was snoozing, all the richies have kind of taken the levers of power and are.
We got a handful of very rich people trying to tell us what to think, how to think, and who we can, and when we can think.
Right.
And that is not democracy. That is not how we work in this country. We have a representation of the democracy that works for the constituency they're elected by. And when we start ignoring that, then we need, as people, as a citizenry, as a constituency, we need to stand up and say that's enough. We need to go out there and find those representatives, those senators, those legislators that represent us, that are responsive to us. And, I can go on about technology and how that can all happen, and how there's no willpower right now to implement it. But I have the willpower to implement it, Luke. I have the willpower to listen to your voice. I have the willpower to change the conversation. To want to fear and control.
That's what we need, man. Fear and control is not.
And retribution. That's just ridiculous. If we need to draw our government down, let's do it in a fashion that allows folks the time and the opportunity to go out and change their careers and find another job. Do it with a little human dignity, and we're spending.
Human dignity would be a new bottom line.
It would be the minimum line that we should be looking for. That's what I look for. So Luke, I'm glad you stopped by to talk, and I'm gonna get you hooked up on the audio podcast, the Grassroots Rising podcast, because this is a thing, bud, and we need to work together to make it happen. So go to my website, skogard2026.org. Go to that share page. get that email and share that with as many folks that you can find. Local
We're going to be
folks.
doing a lot of door knocking, and we're working on a Substack. We got to get a name figured out first, but we've got a poll right now with a bunch of other members of the group. We're going to have a name. We're going to have a Substack. We're going to have different linked accounts for Instagram and Facebook and whatever else. I God forbid Twitter, but X, excuse me.
Whose campaign are you working on again?
We're not working for any campaign, but we're going to be selecting kind of our favorites. But also, it's kind of an open deal. We don't know exactly what this Substack is going to be beyond. We have a lot of letters to the editor just for the Grable Standard that we're going to be sharing, but I hope that it can expand to be something bigger than just Bighorn County or Grable and move on to maybe the rest of the state.
This is how it works. I mean, if you want to become a local chapter of Grassroots Rising, I would welcome you in.
It might be the move, but I'm just not.
I know we're all individualists here in Wyoming, but
Right.
at some point we've got to stand together. I mean, we may not have to stand together forever, but right now,
No, it's unity. It's all about unity.
We need
I
to come
agree.
together because it's not about us versus them, Luke. It's about us.
Yeah.
It always has been. Well, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.